Welcome to a Wonder Junkie podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson.
Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows. Nobody has the faintest idea. The best guesses are lies. You may be sure of it.
Right. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I met you this last summer in Tennessee at a little quantum retreat, and Carrie had invited me to share some breath work, and I ended up enjoying the whole couple days. And I really enjoyed hearing you speak and hearing your testimony, so I thought it would be nice to have you on to share a little bit about this circadian biology subject matter that seems to be popular, but not popular enough, unfortunately, because everywhere I go, people don't know anything about it, it seems, in the real world. But I thought you're probably one of the best people to speak about the subject, and you're doing such a good job educating. So I'm grateful to have you here to start sharing what you're learning and what you're sharing out there in the world.
Yeah, thank you. And it's great to be here. It's great to meet you in Tennessee. I apologize if someone's vacuuming like right over my head right now. So I hope that's not
I don't even hear it. So
okay, good. I'm like, oh no, really?
It's all right. Jack Cruz had a bunch of landscapers, and I was figuring out how to edit that, and it worked out. So
oh, lovely. Okay. So I'm like, this is the only time of the day that I'm recording something and someone's vacuuming. But yeah, I hope that more and more people start talking about this. And I think they will. I think we're starting to hit kind of a critical mass of people that are wanting to tap back into these natural things that have always been available and kind of disconnect a little bit more from tracking every single metric, wearing the devices, even the Aura rings. You know, people are kind of just tired of the overcomplication of our health. And so when people start learning about circadian biology and how intricately it weaves in with hormones, it weaves in with brain health, it weaves in with metabolism, I think people are really interested in listening now.
yeah, I've noticed the biometric, the whole marketing of it and the increase of it. And so I don't wear any of those things, and I like to have that introception to the best of my ability. And I don't even like to wear a watch because I feel like it takes away your understanding of just real linear time in the moment, and then you start just outsourcing it. So yeah, when you hike a mountain or something, everybody's got their devices and their headphones on and the sunglasses on, and it's very interesting because all of it is really just an industry and a marketing.
Yeah.
And people think it's helpful because they've been sold it, but at the end of the day, you look at animals and none of them have any of these devices or glasses. And so it makes sense that we would unplug and undo all of this. But I would love for you to help describe, first of all, how you got on this journey and got so deeply vested in it, because this is what you pretty much spend a lot of your life sharing with people, and how it became so important to you, just so people can relate to why we're speaking about this subject.
Yeah, I mean, I have a long health journey, health story that really started with my daughter, and that she regressed into nonverbal autism when she was about 13 months from a routine medical visit. And that set me on the path because I was really anti-natural health. I thought yoga people were really weird and the natural people were really annoying and weird. And I was just very straight-laced and very, by the book type of person. And that experience, seeing my child go from totally normal and doing everything on time to just all of her skills wiped out overnight, it shook me up completely. And not only did that make me go down all these natural health rabbit holes, but I had to go on a journey of like self-discovery. And that's how I actually got into yoga, became a yoga teacher, because I was literally falling apart as a human being. And so she'll be 18 in December. So I got into alternative health and looking at things through an alternative lens almost 18 years ago. And it's been a lot of different twists and turns, as I'm sure you understand. You just like go down different rabbit holes, like, oh, that was a dead end. That was a dead end. That was not what I thought it was. And so by the time it was about 2019, I had really kind of done the whole yoga, veganism, that whole thing. And I really had wrecked my body with stress and special needs parenting. And so I got into the carnivore diet, which was tremendously helpful. And I thought, this is it. Like, this is the holy grail, be all end all. This is amazing. And I just went into another rabbit hole and decided in 2020 that I wanted to get pregnant. That finally, we had always said, we'll have another one. We want to have more children, but she's just too hands-on, too difficult, too many problems, too many health problems. We can't manage another one. And then we finally got to this point in 2020 where we're like, we got to do this. It's kind of now or never. We're getting older. Like, we have to. And I thought, I'm on this clean diet. I'm living this clean lifestyle. This will be very easy. And I couldn't stay pregnant. I couldn't get and stay pregnant. And I started questioning carnivore diet. I started questioning a lot of the things I was doing. And that's when, about that time, I stumbled upon the information of light, circadian biology, and learning and understanding about the hormone leptin in particular. I did have Dr. Jack Cruz on my podcast. That was the one conversation I ever had with him. But it really put me down a path and that was in 2021. I'm like, wow, there's this whole other world of things that impact our hormones, that impact metabolism, that impact fertility, that go beyond just food. And that really, again, set me down this path of learning. I did the first cohort of Quantum Biology Collective, their practitioner training. I met Carrie, started learning from Carrie. Then I dove into Dr. Pollack, and I'm sure a lot of people that have been on your podcast studying all of their work, and avid just researching and learning and reading and changing what I was doing as a practitioner, because I was also working with clients at that time, and changing what I did with myself. And within just a few months of putting these things together in practice and adopting a local seasonal diet, I was able to get pregnant without IVF with my son in January 2022, and he'll be 3 on Sunday. So I've been really walking the walk, living this lifestyle for, I would say, a solid 4 or 5, almost 5 years now. And it's been a lot of things I've had to learn and adjust and change, but it's been really cool as well.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. That's powerful. I would love for people that have never even heard of, a lot of people that listen to my podcast have heard of this stuff, but then there's a lot of people that haven't, because I go pretty wide spectrum on my guests. So maybe just describe the big takeaways after all of your diving into this circadian biology stuff that you learned that seems so practical and easy probably, but yet were sort of paradigm shifting for you. And they were like a remembering, if you will, or even a rediscovery.
Well, I think, and I'm sure that you've had other guests on your podcast that have talked about this as well, but light is so foundational for so many systems in our body, starting with hormones, starting with leptin getting the signal that it needs, cortisol getting the signal, your brain getting the signals in the morning from light. And you can't hack it with a 10,000 lux light box. I've seen that out there online quite a bit. It needs to come from going outdoors. It needs to come from sunlight, because there are specific wavelengths available only when you go outdoors, even if it's cloudy, even if it's rainy. And they start all these clocks in your body, and it controls your liver, your detox, your digestion, your gut microbiome, thyroid, sex hormones. Just all of these things are impacted, and they start with morning light, and I had no idea. And I thought that the blue light people were particularly silly with their blue blockers and talking about blocking blue light, and you got too much blue light in your environment. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But then I started understanding the importance of melatonin. And so we have this really basic, important focus on light that we need in the beginning of the day. But we also need to honor the darkness at night. And our society does really neither. And these are just super foundational, basic, and really pretty easy for people to implement. Yet most people don't go outside in the morning, or the only time that they go outside is they've got their sunglasses on walking to their car. And most people are watching TV and, they've got their phone in their face and their overhead lights on well into the evening. And they don't understand the impact that that's having on their melatonin, which is a master antioxidant that all these systems need to function properly as well.
Okay, yeah, and I'd love to dive into leptin at some point because a lot of people have probably never heard of that, and you've dove in pretty deep into it. And even myself, I still feel like I don't understand it well, but you do, it seems. And just one of the things that happened with me was I've realized I will not go to a gym or a yoga studio or anything at sunrise. And I've realized I don't think people have a clue about that. Like 99% of the population, you're doing your best to get healthy. You're driving across town to go get fit. But at this point, I don't like to go to yoga studios almost at all because none of them have the right light environment. Same thing with gyms. I'll even wear the blue blockers in the gym now. And I just work out outside as much as possible. But why is this so important? Is it just, I know you just went over the basis of it, but it's like, I'm sure you do the exact same thing. You make these decisions now. You base your life around light. So light becomes the focus of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When you really understand, I mean, it's so far reaching, the implications of light. We really need it for our modern world with all of the non-negative EMF and all the blue light that we're going to be incidentally exposed to just because we have to use technology. We have to occasionally go to the store. And if you do go to the gym, the red and the infrared, those are the antidotes to those wavelengths. Those will help your body to hold on to more water, to make more water, to even kind of create like a Faraday cage so that these wavelengths are not as impactful and they offset them and they can have metabolic and mitochondrial benefits. And so, yeah, I did the same. I did what actually burned me out and just broke my gut and wrecked my body was Ashtanga yoga. And trying to go to the ashram every single day before I would go on to my day of teaching classes all day, working in gyms, and I would start my day drinking a black coffee on the way to the ashram in my car at 4:30 in the morning to get there to do primary series, chronically sore, chronically injured. And it was fun. I loved being able to do, I loved Ashtanga. It was a fun practice. Felt really good. But again, I was always injured. My gut was always messed up. I was like, why am I in so much pain? This is supposed to be such a great practice. Why is my body hurting like this all the time? And then I would ask people that have been doing it longer than me, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's just part of it. Like, it's just part of Ashtanga. It's just always being in pain. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like, it's not. So, yeah, then I discovered meditation that year. I got my Vedic meditation. I did that. So I was able to pull out of all those really heavy duty yoga classes and have my own intentional meditation practice. So that was beautiful. But, I didn't realize that going in the ashram with all the blue lights overhead every morning and doing this vigorous practice was potentially negative on my body because I thought I was doing something good for my health. And before that, for years I had done the gym at 5:00 in the morning because I have a special needs child and I work and this is my time to work out. And, I was always puffing and inflamed and always had an extra 20 pounds I just couldn't get rid of no matter what I did. Now I'm like probably the leanest I've ever been, like including in high school. And I'm 46. I'm the leanest I've ever been, like visible abs in my 40s. What? And I don't go
That's
to the
so
gym.
cool.
I don't go to the gym and I don't wake up and work out. I sleep until either one of my kids gets up, because sometimes that happens, or sunrise. And I'm outside with my dog walking around barefoot in the yard. I don't look at my phone. It's just like you said, I build my life around light now. It's very intentional. And it's worked better than any fad diet, any crash diet, any workout program that I've ever done before.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel the same way in my 30s and 20s. I was grinding and trying to do CrossFit and working out and cramming protein. And, you think you're doing all this cool stuff, but it's all momentum. And you
Mhm.
would think that, when I got injured, I did find yoga and breath, and those were powerful for me to slow down. But I started to also realize, like, now I can go for a 2 hour bike ride and then catch sunset at the park. And I'm doing so much less. And I'm more in that like non-fight or flight state, the
Mhm.
parasympathetic. And I think that that's a lot of our problem too in our culture, is that we think in
Mhm.
order to find so-called progress, it needs to be this grind or this momentum. And
Mhm.
I think people are terrified to slow down and to actually be embodied. And
Yeah.
and I would have thought the yoga studios would be the first to somewhat jump on the bandwagon of the circadian biology stuff, because they're the ones that speak about, connection to the environment, union. And so I'm hoping that that does catch on, because all these new studios pop up, but they throw the LED lights in and it's not happening. So I get a little frustrated with that. But anyway, let's dive into leptin, because I
Yeah.
want people to understand this master hormone and how it functions. And
Yeah, so it is a master circadian signaling hormone. And I like to think of the three master hormones really as leptin, melatonin, and cortisol. And they all have relationship with one another. So they're all kind of working in specific ways in conjunction with one another. And most people have an imbalance of these three master hormones. And so leptin essentially is meant to give your brain a report at night when you're sleeping. So leptin and melatonin are supposed to peak at a similar time every single night and give your brain a report to say, this is how much stored energy is on the body right now. So tomorrow, sex hormones do this, thyroid hormone do this, appetite do this. It's safe enough to make a baby, or it's not safe enough for you to make a baby. And so it's really giving instructions. We have leptin receptors in the gut, in the heart, bones, like all over the body. We have these leptin receptors. But if you are blasting your body with artificial light at night, you're not sleeping, huge way you create leptin resistance, because that download of energy information is really supposed to happen when we're sleeping, right about the same time that melatonin is peaking. How many people don't make enough melatonin because they have some sort of artificial light source in their bedroom, or they're up at that time, or they've eaten right before bed and their insulin is still up, which can create an issue with leptin signaling, because the leptin receptor and insulin receptor are right next to each other in the brain. So they can compete for docking space. And then morning sunlight is also really important to start the TCA cycle, to spin those clocks. And leptin is supposed to be at its lowest point in the morning when we wake up, and if coinciding with cortisol going up. And so most people wake up and they're just not hungry. They've kind of got a melatonin hangover, or they didn't make enough melatonin. Cortisol is either rising way too fast, which can cause leptin levels to also go up. There's just so many things that we're doing in our modern environment that are really messing with these three master hormones, and they all really do, like I said, have relationship with one another. So your leptin should be nice and low when you wake up. So you should have an appetite. You should be hungry. And a lot of people aren't. They're not, due to multiple reasons. So again, it's kind of this, I call it the accountant for the body, is supposed to tell your brain, like, this is what's going on. And a lot of people, that communication is just not happening. So their body's like, I don't know I don't know how much I've got. Appetite's all over the place, thyroid issues, energy, appetite issues. And it really is foundational that these hormones are given the best support.
okay, and let's talk about how to get that leptin in balance or to be in flow, and a little bit about fasting and things like that, because right now there's a huge movement with fasting, intermittent fasting, if you want to call it that. But I guess it wouldn't make sense to call it intermittent fasting, is when you're not eating, you're fasting.
Right.
But a lot of people are not eating until noon. That's the common thread I hear now. And I even myself partake in that sometimes, but I've heard you speak pretty commonly about how that's somewhat destructive for a lot of people.
It can be, because I think women are a lot more sensitive to this. And if men want to do the intermittent fasting, I just recommend they don't do it every day, that they do have some days where they eat breakfast. They kind of cycle in and out of that. And I always recommend that people skip dinner instead of breakfast, because that's a way you can still pull in some fasting and you're going to get deeper repair because your body doesn't have as much food or energy that it needs to be spending on digestion if you, let's say, have your last meal of the day at 2 p.m. versus having your first meal of the day at 2 p.m. and then last meal of the day at 8 p.m. If your body is still digesting food when you're going to sleep, that can create an issue with the leptin signaling. That can create an issue with the body temperature dropping at night appropriately, so that these hormones can really have the best chance of talking. And so I think some fasting can be good, but most people are in a super stressed out, sympathetic dominant state to begin with. And so when you're skipping breakfast, your blood sugar a lot of times does not get the balance that it needs, and you start pulling into what's called gluconeogenesis. So your liver starts making sugar. So I'll have people that get elevated blood sugar from not skipping breakfast. They're like, why is my blood sugar 100? I haven't eaten anything. And I'm like, yeah, because your liver is making sugar. Your body is smart. It's always adapting to the information you're giving it, the environment that you're giving it. And so a lot of people, when they're skipping the breakfast, they're making their cortisol go up way too high, and they're putting stress on their liver. And so it's kind of this like perfect storm to dysregulate your cortisol, to dysregulate your hunger, your leptin signaling, and just create miscommunication. So that's why I always recommend that people clear the residual melatonin from the night before. So get outside, walk around, get some natural sunlight in your eyes, and then eat. Give yourself a little time to clear that melatonin out and then eat. Stabilize your blood sugar with some protein and fat. Nice, no avocado toast, donuts, oatmeal, like protein and fat. Stabilize your blood sugar. Have some, fruit if you want it after you've had that. If you're a fruit person, or if you like oatmeal, everyone demonizes oatmeal. If you want to have oatmeal, fine, but just have some protein and fat first, so that you get that blood sugar stabilization. And that's really going to set your leptin up. It's going to set your hunger hormones up, your cortisol up, to have a little bit of a cleaner energy production for the rest of the day.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you get your light environment right first,
Yes.
and then you're talking about just waking up and getting a little movement, catch the morning sun, stabilize the blood sugar with some fat, some protein, and then throughout your day. What about hydration in the morning, things like that?
Yeah.
Do you recommend that?
First thing I do is I'll go downstairs and get a mouthful of Quinton minerals. Those are my favorite. Take some Shilajit, and then, usually have this big jar of water full of hydrogen water. Just drink that. And then I'll do that usually as I'm going outside, walking around. I have a dog. So dogs are great for circadian alignment, because you got to take the dog out. So I'm taking my dog out, walking around barefoot in the backyard for a little bit, getting some natural light, drinking some water, hydrating. Then I'll come back in, make breakfast for everybody, sit down, eat. Usually I'll take my breakfast out we have a covered patio, and I'll sit out there in the screened-in patio and eat. Kids go out there, they eat. We all like live on that screened-in patio. It's a wonderful thing to have.
Yeah.
You can really go outside, have that, get all that infrared all day long.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about why there's such an increase in thyroid issues right now. That seems to be like an epidemic, and obviously we could correlate it to so many things. And a lot of times I don't want to disregard what happened in 2020 or 2021 with the jab. We can't disregard that. But even without that, what are some of the reasons why you think there's such an increase in hypo and hyperthyroidism?
There's so many reasons behind it. Cortisol is a huge thyroid disruptor, because if cortisol is too high, you're really going to struggle with conversion, thyroid hormone conversion. So that's one. You got to get cortisol. Like, you can't have these super crazy high cortisol levels that a lot of people have. They're stuck in sympathetic dominance, as I mentioned earlier. I have to be careful too. I mean, I know all this stuff, but I'll get sucked into rabbit holes and I need to throw this phone away because it's not good for me. So I even get sucked into it. So everybody as a baseline, we have to kind of look out for that sort of thing and lean in more to community, lean in more to grounding, to things that are going to bring us back to the present moment, because it's really easy to get carried away. And morning sunlight, the thyroid runs on a circadian rhythm, and thyroid hormone does different things at different times of the day. And so it is supposed to orchestrate with light. So when people are on thyroid medications, most people are advised to take the thyroid medication first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Why is that? Because those hormones are supposed to start being activated in the morning naturally. And we're really supposed to get that activation from sunlight. Blue light, blue light can penetrate the thyroid. There's different light wavelengths that can penetrate a different depths of the body. I know I think you had Dr. Glenn Jeffrey on to talk about infrared, basically going like right through the body, and how that's such a cool, he's such a cool guy to talk to. I need to get him back on my podcast. But, blue light can actually penetrate through and hit the thyroid. And we're all exposed to blue light constantly. And so that's a big thing that's hitting people. A lot of people are going towards more fasting, this morning, skipping breakfast. That, again, is going to have that cortisol impact that's going to impact conversion. We've got so many hormone disruptors now with the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the food that we eat, the laundry detergents and beauty products and all the things that we're exposed to. And you can't drive yourself insane because that will create a cortisol problem. But you have to filter things. You have to filter your air, filter your water, try to do your best with your food, and try to pick, products that aren't going to really overburden the liver. Because as I've mentioned, the liver is crucial for the thyroid hormone conversion. And a lot of people are really overburdened. They're even putting a lot of the toxic beauty products directly onto the thyroid as well. A lot of people have low progesterone estrogen balance is also important. This is important for men too. Men that are men can have estrogen dominance. And when you have an issue with progesterone, estrogen, especially as a woman, that again is another burden on the liver. And so, I mean, they're just like, I could just talk all day, but I think that those are main issues. People are not getting enough vitamin A in their diet. The thyroid needs vitamin A. You need to be eating egg yolks, raw butter, raw dairy, beef liver, lamb, those B vitamins. We need B vitamins, we need vitamin A, we need selenium, we need iodine. And that doesn't mean to go grab all those supplements, but to look for the food-rich sources of those nutrients that where most people are missing in their diet. So it's multifaceted. I actually just did a whole thyroid ebook, so it's fresh in my mind.
Oh, wow.
Potassium-rich foods are huge. Most people are potassium deficient, and the thyroid really, really thrives on adequate potassium levels. So that's another thing. A lot of these low carb keto diets are very low in potassium. They push those levels even lower. So yeah, we could be here all day.
Yeah. What if someone ended up having to have their thyroid removed and now they're trying to figure out how to find the right flow and balance there? What do you recommend for those folks?
I mean, we make thyroid hormone in other places in the body besides the thyroid. So if someone's had a thyroidectomy, they probably will have to take thyroid hormone. I haven't necessarily seen a big, workaround for that, but you can still do all of these things that I just mentioned. Potassium-rich foods, B vitamins, support your mitochondria, support the liver, make sure hormones are as balanced as you can get them as far as the progesterone to estrogen balance goes. Light exposure has to be, it's got to be there. It's got to be there. And there's a host of studies on red and infrared light for the thyroid as well. So, I'll have people that really are struggling with thyroid to do red light therapy protocol on the thyroid. And that can be helpful in blocking the artificial light at night, protecting yourself from blue light. So even if you don't have a thyroid, all those things are going to be extremely supportive to you.
Okay. I'll have people jump into your ebook then and go deeper if they want to know more, because you have so many resources on your website and on your social media. It's amazing. So let's just I'm trying to get to most of the practical knowledge for people, because a lot of the guys, even first responders that I work with, have no idea why I'm flipping all the lights off in the bay and at night. And I'm the weird guy that's climbing on the roof for sunrise and wearing these things if I'm inside. And it isn't understood to the mainstream. And so I just love when people that are open-minded and, you care about people, you want them to feel good and get healthy. And a lot of our industry is filled and riddled with health issues, especially cancers and different things. And I believe that we can prevent a lot of it with doing some of these fundamentals, these just getting your light environment right. But let's talk about non-native EMF and grounding and just the whole magnetism story and ways that people can understand why it's so important and what to do about it.
Yeah, I like to keep it super simple. I think any grounding is good grounding. I know there's some people out there that say you shouldn't ground in the city or urban environments. I honestly think any grounding is good grounding, but it's a great way to discharge non-native EMFs, to kind of create a little bit of a Faraday cage on your body, connect with the Schumann resonance, which is for our nervous system extremely calming, extremely important to get into those specific waves. And, non-native EMF, it really does, number one, it impacts our nervous system because of the frequency that non-native EMF emits, has the tendency to put us into high beta, which can be this like overstimulated, more sympathetic nervous system state. And then again, we connect with Schumann resonance, which is just basically touching the earth and grounding, and it can bring us back into alpha, more calming brain waves. And so that's crucial. That's something that a lot of people talk about. But non-native EMF also dehydrates us on a cellular level. Dr. Pollack is the one who has shown a 15 to 20% loss of exclusion zone water when exposed to Wi-Fi radiation, which we're all exposed to. And so it's important to be aware of those things. We're not going to be able to escape them, which is why I'm always trying to open a window. Drives my husband completely insane. Get my kids outside. I have a source of infrared on in the kitchen in the winter when it's a little bit colder and I can't always have the doors or windows open. I always have an infrared panel going because infrared is really the antidote to non-native EMF, I think. It's helpful because far infrared helps your body to expand that exclusion zone, and the near infrared allows your mitochondria to make subcellular melatonin, so it can actually calm down some of that inflammation that we might be experiencing from being around a lot of that non-native EMF. So I don't think we're going to be able to escape non-native EMF, towers, satellites. So, nature does provide us with the antidote, which is grounding, which is sunlight.
So get sunlight and try to be barefoot as much as you can on the earth.
Yeah.
Pretty simple tactics. But
Yeah.
I even bought some of those earth runners just to have, and they're comfy and stuff. But then again, I'm like, I do hike some treacherous terrain, and I'm like, I don't think I want to be out there in those things as much as people rave about them. I'm like, dude, if you're carrying a 50-pound pack and you're hiking deep out in there, especially in the desert, I just don't see it happening. But I do like them. They're cool. So what else can people do as far as, do you think supplements are something that you advocate for, or are you more like use nature, use food? Because I don't take very many supplements myself at this point because it's so hard to find clean supplements. And then there's all this, we get overwhelmed now with information about an idea. Take vitamin D, don't take it because here's what's going on with vitamin D. So tell me your philosophy on supplementation and even things like steroid, like TRT. There's so many men in my culture that are taking that at 30 years old, 35. And I'm like, man, that's setting you up for a whole chain of events.
Yeah. I definitely don't like that. And I see women on the flip side taking progesterone when they're way too young. You know, you're you're not in perimenopause in your 30s, more than likely, maybe late 30s. But, you know, I see a lot of women taking hormones too early, too young, because when you have these chronic high cortisol levels, when you're not supporting your mitochondria, when you're not supporting your body's detox processes, again, through light, through natural things like limiting hormone disruptors, endocrine disruptors, filtering your water, filtering your air, those things go a really long way to support natural hormone production. Yeah, you will have low hormones. You will have low hormones as a result of modern life. If you're not getting sunlight, you're not blocking blue light at night, all of those things are going to impact hormones. And so there's, when you start taking those, you're going to cut down on your body's ability to make them. And that has other downstream issues. So I think people need to be cautious. You can get hormones pretty much anywhere now. Like, it's so easy to get these drugs and hormones through these telehealth companies. People are taking them now and I feel good. I'm doing great. So I think you got to be cautious, and you really want to encourage your body to have its own endogenous production as much as possible. I think there's nuance with supplements, because there are some that I like She Legit, My Minerals, Hydrogen, and I will cycle in things occasionally, like vitamin C. Last week I was really sick and I cycled in melatonin. I cycled in some zinc. The problem I see with supplements is that people take them, they start taking them, and then they're taking them for years and they don't even know why. Someone comes to me with a list of like 10, 15 supplements. I'm like, why are you taking all these? Well, I started taking them like few years ago, and they don't know why they don't know why they're taking them.
Wow.
So I think it has to, like, why are you taking that? What is it helping you with? How do you feel? Vitamin D supplements. Again, that's another, I don't know if you've had Jim Stevenson Jr. on your podcast. I'm sure he would be glad to come chat with you about all the nuances on vitamin D supplements, because it almost basically killed his wife.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a deep rabbit hole. And so I'm cautious with vitamin D supplements. I don't generally recommend them. And if someone does want to take them, very short periods of time. And while you're doing that, get your relationship with light back on track, because there can be long-term downstream effects, magnesium depletion, even if you're taking magnesium, thyroid issues that can happen with long-term vitamin D supplementation. There are studies that show you can increase your risk of fracture, bone fracture. And then you don't know there's so many metabolites of vitamin D. What you're taking, what you think it's going to do, it may not actually do in your body. Is it going to convert to the active form 125? There are so many other metabolites of vitamin D. There's even photoprotective metabolites. So I'll hear people say, I took vitamin D supplements and I was in the sun all summer and my levels are really low. And while there are some genetic mutations that can block conversion, taking vitamin D supplements, I've heard people say, don't take it if your body makes it. There's not scientific evidence to directly show this, but from some of the research I've done, it looks as though taking a vitamin D supplement could, in some cases, create photoprotective compounds in the body. So when you are going out in the sun, it serves as a sunscreen, because your body thinks, I've already gotten enough vitamin D from this supplement, so I'm not going to take any more in from the sun. So there's still a lot that we don't know, and we have to be really cautious. Even if you're adding in a K2 and magnesium, that doesn't solve for the issues with the fact that it can push your vitamin A levels down. We need vitamin A for thyroid. So it's a lot that needs to be considered and looked at. It's definitely a huge rabbit hole.
Yeah. And for people that aren't as obsessive, like not in a bad way, but like you who have the time and the mindset to go and dig deep, it can just be another commercial marketing thing where you're adding more to your problem instead of removing things. I think starting by removing things is always a better idea, in my opinion,
Yes.
like eliminating the things that are already adding problems to your life, and then maybe implementing the natural things like we're talking about that would help. And I can't even get my mother, she's already up at sunrise, like at the time, but she does not go on the back patio to catch the light. And I just can't convince her to do that.
I
And
know.
it's funny how the information has to come from someone
Someone
else.
else.
Sometimes with the people we love most, like the people
Mhm.
closest to you, it's like they have to hear it from someone else. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, I get that all the time in my community. And I just have to say, you're sometimes not going to be the one that's going to turn your family or your son or your husband. They have to hear it from someone else, or they have to get into enough pain to get desperate enough to try it. For instance, my husband started noticing his eyesight was going, and then he's like, "Can you show me how to turn my phone screen red? And maybe I should use those blue blockers." So that was how I got him on the blue blockers, was that he started noticing his eyesight was struggling, and that using the blue blockers and turning the phone screen red helped. Otherwise, I've been wearing blue blockers over here by myself this whole time, and he's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you wearing those glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fertility, and there's an epidemic there with infertility right now. And you yourself have a beautiful testimony there as to how you found a way to make another beautiful human being, especially in your later years when you were told, obviously, that you couldn't. Let's
Right.
talk a little bit about that, because I know some friends of mine that are trying IVF and spending lots of money, and they're stressed, and there's a lot to it. And I feel bad for them, but I want
Yeah.
them to hear a little bit of your description of this issue and how to overcome it.
Yeah, so you get into IVF thinking it's this guarantee, and I did 2 rounds of IVF. We never got any viable embryos from the process, and it was very expensive, and it's very emotional, and it's very hard on your body because you're taking all these hormones, and then you've got to go get these very invasive ultrasounds and blood work and ultrasound and blood work pretty much every day for a couple of weeks. Then you have a surgery where you're put under anesthesia, which is very stressful on the body. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's emotional. It's a very emotional thing because every day you're going for the blood work and the ultrasound, and then you're sitting around waiting for the phone call from the clinic. What the ultrasound look like? What does my blood work look like? You're in this process. And so I wouldn't wish IVF on my worst enemy. I think it's just awful. I hate it. And it didn't work. I didn't get anything out of it except a lot of lost money and heartbreak. It's very expensive. And so fertility and this circadian biology is very intertwined. And it starts with light and how that impacts your master hormones, and how sunlight actually talks to the mitochondria. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the mitochondria are where hormone production starts. We've got mitochondria that they get the signal from blue light from sunlight, and that starts the production of pregnenolone. That is basically told, are we going to make cortisol? Or are we going to make these sex hormones? And we're supposed to shuttle it appropriately. But if we're under chronic stress in this fight flight state, a lot of that pregnenolone is going to go down the cortisol pathway, and it's going to take it away from sex hormone production. And so light exposure in the mornings is one of those groundbreaking foundational things that everyone should be doing if they are working on fertility and they're working on leptin. Because if you're not doing that, your body doesn't know what time of day it is, what time of year it is, doesn't know if it's safe enough or not to make a baby. And your mitochondria are these environmental sensors. Mitochondria are crucial in the fertility process. We have the most dense collection of mitochondria in the oocytes in the ovaries. And so women that are struggling with fertility need to understand that, hormone health and ovary health is going to start with morning sunlight and exposing those body parts to red and infrared light. So we've Carrie and I did a fertility course together, and I still continue to work with women and help them in that journey. But doing red light therapy on those areas is also very helpful for men and for women, because typically there is a mitochondrial issue that's causing a hormone issue, that's causing an infertility issue, some sort of inflammation. And then getting leptin, there's so many studies now. Like I don't hang my hat on studies. I hang my hat on what's actually working with people. But if you want the data, it's there. When leptin was discovered in 1994, everyone thought it was going to be the next thing they were going to create a drug for and manipulate the human body in some sort of way. And they never were really able to do that. Along the way, they had all these studies that correlate leptin and fertility, leptin and endometriosis, leptin and even hot flashes, leptin and PCOS, leptin, and I mean, you name it, any kind of fertility issue, there was a leptin element. And so if someone's in that journey, in that process, I would say sunlight has to be foundational. And then artificial light at night, your environment has to be nice and dark, because for mitochondria to run optimally, they need to be able to repair. A lot of people aren't getting autophagy and apoptosis because they don't have enough darkness at night. They have a phone in the bedroom. They have a little light in the bedroom. They have something going on that's really shutting down the body's ability to repair and regenerate. And again, allow leptin to talk to the brain and say, this is what's going on. We can make a baby. And so I've had a lot of people that just come and do my basic leptin program, get pregnant. And the oldest one, I think so far, has been 47. And we'll see if anyone can break her record. But and she wanted to get pregnant. She was wanting to be pregnant, because some women at 47, I'm 46. I'm not trying to get pregnant. I think I'm good. I'm tired. If it was 5 years ago, maybe I was a little younger, I'd like to have more kids, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
So,
That's understandable.
yeah.
So a lot of people, when they discover this circadian biology or anything that has to do with their health, they get stressed out and start seeking and chasing. And
Yeah.
immediately you come into the landscape of bombardment of information. And that's why I do try to seek out the people that are like you, the experts, you and Carrie and Dr. Jack, and people that have spent lots of time already hammering through it and coming down to the core principles. But I'm a big believer in mind over matter to a certain degree,
Yes.
and how much that part is overlooked. Because I always like to look at centenarians, the people that live to be over 100. And one of them in particular was this guy who was 112, I think, when he died, but he ate Campbell's soup every day and drank coffee and whiskey and ice cream. And he goes, I was happy. And I'll never forget that, because a lot of the people that lived to be over 100 went through the Great Depression. They went through World War II and all these horrible situations, but their adversity mindset and their beautiful ability to just function and serve others. And there was so much to that where they weren't even aware of 99% of what we were talking about as far as health and wellness, but they raised kids and they had this beautiful mindset. And so anyway, when people get started, I just like to remind them, like, take it easy, find some good resources, remove a few things from your life. What do you say to this? And what are some of the biggest misconceptions right off the bat with circadian biology?
So, in day 12 of my leptin reset, and then something with my fertility journey that was crucial, was a reprogramming of the mind and the subconscious thoughts, and understanding the nature of water and how that works in the body. I'm sure. Have you had Veda on, Veda Austin?
I would love to, but no, I haven't
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Her work really illustrates this so beautifully, of the water inside the body and the impact, I think, of what you just so brilliantly described, of these people that are living to 112 and eating Campbell's soup and drinking whiskey and having coffee. They are likely happy people. The water inside their body is coherent. They live in these coherent lifestyles, and maybe they don't know everything there is to know about nutrition and health and all this perfection. But the water inside their body, because of the state that they maintain, is in this beautiful state, in this coherent state. And so when I went down this rabbit hole, learning about water and understanding that was really important. And for me at the time, it was Louise Hay that got me reprogrammed. I was out, wearing my wired headphones or had my phone on speaker, just in my neighborhood, trying to wear as little clothes as possible to get my vitamin D and listening to Louise Hay just nonstop. Like if you type her in on YouTube, you could just hear her books and speeches she's done. And at that time, her voice really resonated with me. Her book, You Can Heal Your Life. And that is part of the it's part of quantum biology. It really is, because you can just get all the light perfect. You can get all the diet perfect. But if you up here are like, I can't, and this is not going to work, and everything's horrible, everything's falling apart, and you're living in this fear state, your body is not going to respond as well, if at all. And so I think that's day 12 on my leptin reset, where I really talk about that, give some extra resources. You have to find what resonates with you, but you do have to look at reprogramming the mind. Otherwise, the program up here is going to is talking to the cells in your body as well. So that is something that can't be overlooked. You can get all the stuff right, but if your brain, your mindset is still one of negativity and fear, it's going to be a problem. So yeah, I always, when people talk about your fertility journey or health journey, that has to be part of it. And it changes, it was Louise Hay, and then it was Wayne Dyer, and then who else have I gone through? Dolores Cannon for a while. I just try to keep something in my ear. Right now I'm going into all this Edgar Cayce stuff. So I'm always trying to see what can I reprogram. Neville Goddard. I need to have somebody in my ear, because me in my ear is not good.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I love learning from others. And then also, like, I'm sure you're big on this, but the connection with your breath and the relationship to the breath is like foundational. That was the first thing that I discovered that was so in my face and right under my nose, if you will, that I couldn't get over the fact that I grew up my whole life without knowing how to regulate my nervous system and use the breath intelligently as a tool. And now it's a beautiful relationship where I use it for everything that I'm doing. I think of it as a breath practice. And that is an incredible resource for us to lower stress and to build a connection with the present moment in our body, and to be aware of whatever it is that our attention is on. So I wanted to ask you if you had any favorite resources that you'd like to share with people for finding information about this, for, say, purchasing the right blue blockers or the right incandescent bulbs, things like that you could send people to that would help them the most.
Yeah, I have a product guide on my website, and it's on my Instagram page also. If you go into my bio, I'm always updating it with things. Like I just added a new light bulb resource in there that one of my coaches told me about, because you can get apparently incandescent bulbs from this website, even if you're in California. So I've got that product.
It's like drugs.
Guide. I know, right? Oh, I've got some incandescents. So that's in my product guide. I have an app also called my Circadian app, that there's a free version, and there's tons of videos in there. A free ebook called Building Your Perfect Quantum Day that's in there, that kind of teaches you about how to set up your day, structure your day with light, from sunrise to sunset, and has blue blocker links in there also. And that, again, that's free at mycircadianapp.com. And you can use code Sarah K if you want to get a free trial of that.
Cool.
And yeah, I've got my website, sarahkleinerwellness.com. And I try to put out free articles a lot. I could do a Substack and probably make a lot of money, but I just haven't felt called to do that. So I have a blog on my website, and I have a newsletter that I write for free also, where I try to cover these topics and nuance of, like, how do you do this if you work in an office? How does this work if you have kids? How does this work in the winter? Deep dives on vitamin D, melanin, all these topics. I try to cover them on my blog and in my newsletter.
Amazing. Yeah, you have so much resources there. So I hope people dive in. I'll keep going back. I even use your app. I use the paid version. I love it. So I don't use it a ton. I just glance at it to see what the
Yeah.
UV is and to get the basic information, but it's so well done. And then the Lux meter is really cool on it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. Like, I don't even use the vitamin D timer anymore. I kind of know when I've had enough sun. I
Hmm.
intuitively know, but I do use the notifications that pop up and tell me, oh, it's daybreak, sunrise, sunset, nightfall. Like, that's useful to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, time to put on the blue blockers.
That's great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
highly recommend people download that. And I know we're at the hour, so I ask everybody, if you were going to die today and this was the last thing you could share, what would you want to say to the world?
Oh, geez. That's a deep question. I think love one another. And if you're struggling with that, always try to seek to understand the other person. There's a reason why they think the way they do or say the things they do. Not saying that they're right or wrong, but I think that's where we get caught up as humans, as misunderstanding one another, and not living in that vibration of love. And there's a lot of that in the world now, separation and division, and I'm right and you're wrong, and it's got to be this way. And I think that it's easy to get swept into that. And so if I could say one thing, is just seek to understand rather than to be understood, and love one another.
Awesome. I love that very much. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to the episode. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes, and rate the show. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
What we call reality is in fact nothing more than a culturally sanctioned and linguistically reinforced hallucination.